Hey folks, this is Heath Wright from the group Ricochet, and you're listening to Real Country Jukebox with my buddy, Raymond Gardner.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Real Country Jukebox Podcast. This is episode number 30, and what we're going to talk about today is Riley Green's album that came out last Friday.
Yep.
Last Friday, and it's called Ain't My Last Rodeo, and we're going to do an album review on that today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to do this one. I love Riley Green. The whole album is good. Some songs are better than others, but we definitely got a couple that we want to talk about and just give a review. We can be able to review all of them. We'd be here for 2 hours, but I'm going to let James lead it off.
Okay, I'm going to go with the obvious one to start with, Mississippi or Me, which is, as far as hearing this record was going to come out, I had heard probably 5 or 6 of the 12 tracks on there before as he was releasing them, but this is the first one that I really listened to in depth when they were announcing the album coming out and everything. There's several things I like about Mississippi or Me. Now, he's been doing the song, from what I understand. Raymond follows him harder than I do. He's been doing the song in his shows and stuff for, I'd say, a good 2 or 3 years. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 5 would even be accurate.
Okay, even more so, yeah. So, but finally, as Raymond said, Raymond's a huge fan, and he was saying how he was finally glad he got a studio version of it. The studio versions are always just so clean, and they're just perfect most of the time. So anyway, I really like that track a lot. I like all the M's. I mean, it's really just 2, but Mississippi or Me. And the reason I say that is because that makes it kind of catchy. And typically I don't like catchy, but this is catchy with substance. It's a very good song. I mean, he's out there basically telling you, did you give up on your interstate dreams and come back this way because of me? And I think his perspective is he's hoping his lost love is coming back to him, coming back to their hometown where they grew up for him. But it's kind of, did you come back because you like this? Did you come back because you missed this? Did you come back because the job you were leaving for didn't work out? But he's basically saying, were you missing Mississippi or me? And I mean, his perspective is, I hope you were missing me and I'm what you came back for. So it's a really cool song, and it's what makes country music special.
Yeah, and that one's on my list too, one I want to talk about. I rate that as a 10, and we ain't got to rate them. I'm just saying, to me, that's a solid song, and it's kind of got a, I say this a lot about Riley Green, but it's got a 90s Red Akins feel to it. And I think that all the different things that he mentions, like you were talking about, like, you know, he even says, was my house the first place you thought about, or had you already been by and seen everyone else?
Right.
And just decided to stop by here. So, and another interesting thing, I don't know if you knew this or not, and I didn't know this until then, but Josh Thompson wrote it with him.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
His writing seems a lot like Rhett and a lot like Riley Green. So I did not know that. Good call there.
I didn't know it
that
until,
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so I love that one. One that I had on the list was A Dang Good Day to Leave, and I mentioned that one with that because it's got a very 90s feel to it, and just the things that to me it's very similar to and I always forget what it's called. I call it the Shell Station song, but when Luke Combs gets the lottery tickets, and it just like his girl broke up with him, but everything just continues to get better.
I know what you're talking about, and I can't think of the name of it either on the spot. I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
I'm not a huge Luke Combs fan, but that song is good. Every time I hear the radio and this song, I keep it there. That's a great song.
That's my favorite song he did, and that song would be good regardless of who did it.
Yeah, I agree.
The song's a good song regardless.
Yeah, so that particular song reminds me just of that, and it's just a fun song to roll down your windows and crank up, you know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, what you got?
This is actually my favorite track on the album, and I could be wrong. It could be 5,000 people's favorite track on the album, but when this kind of became my favorite, as I listened to it the first time, I kind of thought, I bet this is nobody else's favorite, but it is mine. Mm-hmm. Working on Me.
Oh yeah.
And it's not that it's very deep lyrically, which we're both lyric guys. It's not that, and I typically go for the deep lyric song. It's not that. It's just something about, I don't want to sound cliche, but something about the groove of that song, like just the 3.5 minutes it goes on, just the groove of it. It's just, it feels good, and I like the writing on it where he's basically kind of complimenting all these things she's doing. like a song she likes, a song he likes, what she's wearing, you know, how she looks that night. He's kind of complimenting these things. And again, maybe his perspective is wishful thinking, but he's basically kind of saying, are you doing all these things I like on purpose? Is this really who you are? Are you doing these things I like on purpose to try to catch me because it's working?
Yeah.
It's a really cool song.
Well, you know, it's funny, that wasn't one of my favorites, but two things I'll say about it. He has at least one on every single album that reminds me of that song. Like one of them, Put 'Em On Mine, where no matter what, this ain't from this album, it's the previous album, but the bar tabs, he's like, put 'em on mine, the boots on my floor, put 'em on mine, whatever, and that song reminds me of it. But another thing I was thinking about too is, we had this conversation at Insomnia Cookies one night, that Blake Shelton song came on, the one that he Dance with Anyone But You or whatever. And I said, I don't really care for this one. You're like, man, I like it.
The one I don't want to scoot the boot with nobody. Yeah.
That song kind of reminds me of it though.
Okay.
You know, in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad song. Look, there ain't a bad song on the whole album. It's just not one of my favorites. But yeah, I can appreciate that. It's definitely got a groove, like you said, you know.
Right.
My next was the title track, This Ain't My Last Rodeo. It ain't one that I would want to listen to over and over and over. It's pretty sad, and Riley Green's known for writing about his grandparents, but I lost my last granddad 2 months ago, and this particular passing, I was able to see the way that, you know, the song really reminds me of that whole situation, because it was kind of, you know, anyway, the song just really reminded me of it, and I think it's a well-written song. I like the whole idea of it, where, you know, the guy was saying, like, this is just a short time on earth, I got a whole nother, there's a line like, when you fall down, get back up, pretty much, you know,
yeah,
and turn another way. So I think that that song means a lot to me because of that, and I think it was well written. It ain't what I want to listen to all the time, but it was good.
No, it's heartfelt and deep and from a true background, but I mean, I get what you're saying, because it's kind of sad in a way too.
Yeah.
It has a happy ending, but it's kind of sad. I mean, if you're a believer, it's a happy
Yeah.
ending. So, but it's one of those that, yeah, you hear it one time, you're glad you heard it because it's deep and it hits you in the heart, but you know, you don't want to listen to it all the time. It might put you in the wrong mood.
I didn't want to leave it off because it deserves to be up there, but it ain't what I want to listen to all the time. But it's a very well written song, very good, and you can't listen to that song and not feel it. So.
I've got Raised Up Right. Am I saying the name of it right? Because I wrote it down wrong, but I kind of interpreted my own right. Raised Up Right. That's the one. I won't get real deep into this one either way, but it's one of the ones I really liked a lot because I can relate to it the most. Like, he talks about all the things that, you know, he had to learn growing up, like if you cuss, you put a bar of soap in your mouth, that sort of thing, which luckily I never had to do that. I might eat a bar tonight to see how it tastes, but candy bars were better. But no, nothing like that. But just like one thing that it reminded me of my childhood is how he was talking about how midnight doesn't mean 12:03, and you get in trouble if you were home past your curfew. My curfew was midnight in high school and even a little bit of college. For the majority of the time I lived at home, and my daddy was extremely strict about that, and that's exactly how he was. He would tell me 12 o'clock, that doesn't mean 12:01, that does not mean 12:02. So obviously I thought of that the first time I heard him say midnight doesn't mean 12:03. And then of course, some people call it stereotypical, but these are things I don't get tired of hearing in a song. He talks about how they fly the American flag all the time, and yes sir and yes ma'am and no sir and no ma'am and that sort of thing. And those things should never go out of style, should never go out of date.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that in songs, even if it's repetitive.
I agree with you in it. Yeah, I feel the same way about that song. And another thing too about Riley Green, on a whole, I noticed this from the time his very first album came out. He hasn't gotten the push that I feel he deserves, but he's always been on the radio, but it's constantly talking about God, America, freedom, conservative values. And I'm glad that he gets away with it, because a lot of them, they're like, you can't say that. And I don't know if maybe he just feels like that they haven't put him on the same level as some of those other guys, so he can kind of do, I don't know, but he seems to, in a classy way, tell exactly how he feels, you know, without being too blunt, I guess you say. You know.
Right.
And I appreciate that in his music, because that's definitely in 1992. All of his songs is kind of like what was on the radio, you know.
Agreed.
As far as that goes.
Yeah.
There was one particular part in that song you said, you know, a lot, but it's kind of funny. It's a story about the whole curfew thing. Where he said you can't go on a date till Dad's got your keys.
I never had that happen, thankfully.
I pretty much had 2 cars the whole time from the time I got my license until was steel, and just like steel, one of them's always broken down. So even when I was in high school, I had 2 cars, but one of them was normally get worked on. But my Blazer, I would always try to find a way to get out of being grounded if I thought I was being grounded when I shouldn't have been. I'd use my Blazer to help me out with it, like they call, and you know, because you didn't have cell phones, they called a house
phone.
They call
and need something.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So
this is important.
My dad ended up telling my best friend Philip, he was like, listen, before you call, if the Blazer's parked in the backyard, that means he's grounded. If it's in the front yard.
He went ahead and nipped that trick in the bud. He wasn't born yesterday.
So anyway, yeah, so they kind of use that, because all my Blazers are down the road for the most part. So, and I had the first house on the road. So when they turned down that road, if the Blazer was parked in the front yard, we were good to go. If it was parked in the back, I was grounded.
That's a different energy.
But you know, another thing too though, that 12:03, or you were talking about your curfew being midnight, that's pretty lenient, especially in high school. So I think that's fair. If you can't figure out a way to get home by then, you might need to be grounded.
I mean, that's a good point too.
Yeah.
That's a good point too. And I mean, you know.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's a 10-year difference. I don't know.
I don't either.
But yeah, that was lenient. But it was almost to the point where I said 12 o'clock, and it better be by my watch. If my watch says 12 o'clock and 32 seconds, yours better say 32 seconds as well. It better be right on. I mean, and he didn't go to bed until we got home. Neither one of my parents did.
Oh man.
So it was kind of, there was no sneaking around it or anything like that. They were going to be right there in the living room when you walked in, and you know, it was terrible.
Well, as long as we were home by 12 o'clock, so what we would do is me and all my friends would be back at my house by 12, but we'd start a fire in the field, and then we'd stay away from home, as long as we were at my house.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, but anyway, another one that the first time I heard it, I said it's too cliche. I can appreciate it, but it's too cliche. Now I love the song, and a lot of songs are like that. Generally, you hear it the first time, don't really catch you. Then you hear it on the right day, and then you love it. But there's one there called "God Made a Good Old Boy." There's 1,000 of these songs on the radio, but when Riley Green says it, I believe it, because I know he lives the lifestyle they're singing about, and I live the same lifestyle.
I believe that.
And I mean, there was one day it was like 85 degrees. I was riding to Williamson with my windows down, and that song came on. This was long before the album, but it was available to us about 4 months ago. We had just left that concert too. He didn't play it at the concert, but it was the very next day, because I ran into Cody in town, my brother, that went to the concert with me, and when he called me up and I cut down the radio, he was like, "What are you listening to so loud?" I was like, "Man, believe it or not, it's God Made a Good Old Boy." He's like, "I'm listening to the same song." We were both so pumped up after going to the concert, man. But yeah, to me, that's an awesome song, and it's very cliche. It's very like everything else on the radio, but it's different because I follow him enough to know that everything in that song, he lives, and he ain't just flying into Nashville to cut a record, then going back to Manhattan. You know what I mean? So,
you know what's funny? You know how randomly you'll think it might not be pertaining, like we're sitting here on a tailgate, or we're at work, or it might not be pertaining to anything you're doing, but you'll just randomly have a thought about something that happened. And I know he sees millions of people on stage and that sort of thing. You ever think maybe while he was recording this record, it just popped in his head about him throwing football with y'all that day? Because he probably didn't do that at every concert. So I'm not trying to be funny. He probably didn't do that at every concert. I wonder if he randomly thought, what were those guys are up to that I played football with that day at Red Hat?
You're not being, and I'll tell you why. Cody sent me a video the other day where Riley Green had reposted it last week. And you can see Bobby catching the ball.
Well, there you go.
Actually, he had threw it more towards Stacy. Bobby reached over and grabbed it.
Yeah.
Chunked it back to him, and then he chunked it back to us. And then he started, but he put it, I think that's the first time this ever happened. So, I thought that was cool, man.
I was on to something. Yeah, and I know them boys loved that, man. That had been a good day.
It was fun, man.
So I can imagine. I mean, I understand they kind of look at him probably like I did Alan Jackson in the '90s, man. I can't imagine. I can't see Alan Jackson necessarily throwing football, but I can't imagine. During Alan's big heyday in the '90s, I can't imagine him walking up and high-fiving me, much less throwing football with me. Shaking hands.
Yeah, I can see him out there throwing football wearing a Cowboys 34 jersey. I think it was 34, right?
I think it was. I think it was a Herschel Walker jersey.
I believe it was. Yeah, because didn't he go to Georgia? Did he play for Georgia?
I don't know.
I think he did.
Yeah, that sounds good though.
But anyway,
that was the other one I was going to mention too, though. God Made a Good Old Boy. That was the one.
Yeah.
That was the one I had written down. What I was going to say about that one that's interesting, and the lyrics are good. But what I was going to say was, now when I make this comparison, I'm not comparing the two songs because they couldn't be more polar opposite.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to remember all the songs. I probably haven't listened to as much as you have. But you know, like the groove of how he's saying, Martin made a whatever kind of guitar that was. Chevrolet made a this, and that sort of thing. Ford made this. I don't think he used Ford, but he was saying different people that made different things, and God made a good old boy for girls like you. The way he's the tone of the song, and when he's saying Chevrolet made this, Martin made this, it reminds me of rich girl wants to
marry.
Poor girl wants to marry. Rich girl wants to get. That whole. It reminded me of that Charlie Daniels song would be in different topics, but when I hear it, because the first time I heard it, I kept thinking, I was like, this sounds like something else. And it kind of sounded like maybe he had listened to that Charlie Daniels song.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Right before that, or something, which he probably didn't. But I mean, it kind of reminded me of that, but totally different, like, subject.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Anyway.
Is it your turn? Or you doing? All right, another one I want to talk about was there's a song up there that's called Ain't Like I Can Hide It. And that song really appeals to me because, when I was traveling, I talk about this all the time, but it was so much fun for 5 years. But when I was traveling, we ended up in some small towns like in Virginia and Pennsylvania and stuff like that, but we also ended up in some big cities like Oklahoma, Tulsa, right outside of Dallas, places like that, man. And from the day one of walking into the spot we were working at, everyone, the co-workers and the patients, like even sitting there in scrubs and tennis shoes, no hat or nothing, they just automatically knew, that I ain't saying, a lot of people be like, yeah, I'm country, this, that, and the other. Some people, you don't even have to say it. They just know. You know what I mean?
Right.
To me, that particular song just reminds me so much of when I was traveling, and it was just kind of like, you ain't no need to try to, but not that I would seem like I'm something that I ain't, but it's just impossible.
Yeah, nobody can be around you longer than 2 minutes without knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and normally the ones that do the most talking about it aren't at all.
Yeah.
They're trying to fit into some kind of social circle or something. So there's no doubt about that. I get what you're saying.
So I think that song really impacts me on a certain level. There is I don't know what it is though. I put it more with the That Ain't My Last Rodeo. Like, it ain't one I'm listening to all the time. I like more of the upbeat stuff.
Me too.
Which it gets kind of upbeat, but I like I don't know. It's one that reminds me of myself, but I wouldn't put it as number one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think the most two solid songs on the whole album are Mississippi to Me, and I just love That Dang Good Day to Leave or whatever. You know what I mean? That's just a good song to me.
How's he gonna watch the game without her sitting around
I
lying?
know, yeah.
That's a funny line, man. Or I might not have got it exactly right, but that's the gist of it.
You're right. And that's something. How am I gonna do anything without you there showing me how?
Right. That's good writing. And probably to me, as far as just the writing, that was the best writing on the album. That particular song.
Yeah. That sounds like a Red Akins written song.
No question.
And another thing too, and not that I think anyone should go out and drink or nothing like that, but he mentions leaving me here with a cooler full of Keystones.
Right.
I appreciate that because anybody that's everybody and do it all, you can get 15 of them things for $6.
I don't know that I've ever had one.
It's a cheap cool.
Okay.
But it's even got the C written on. But it's a budget beer for sure. But it's just funny. Most people love to talk about some of the other stuff, and he's like, "Yeah, I got these cooler full of Keystones."
Shopping a different name brand. Yeah.
So, but anyway, the only thing I want to mention before this is over with that I wish he hadn't done, and I'm not putting them down. I do the same thing to Haley Williams, and these are two of my favorite artists out right now. But like Haley put that song on the next album, it was just on the other one. You told me why you thought she did, that was when Brought to Dance or whatever.
Right.
But Riley Green's not very first album, because he had some small independent stuff when he was just starting out, but his first one where he hit the scene, it was called Different Round Here. It was a great song with just him singing it. And it's nothing against Luke Combs, and Luke Combs is big right now, and that might be why he went on tour with Luke Combs, and that's fine. But Different Round Here was great when you were doing it 5 years ago, man. You didn't even have to do that. You know, you could, even if you want to do a song with Luke, you're a heck of a writer. In 10 minutes, y'all could came out with something.
Right, and it's not really a knock on Luke Combs. I get what you're saying, because for some reason, everybody, I'm not insulting any of these artists, I'm just stating a fact. For some reason, like Charlie Worsham, the same day Riley Green came out with that album, Charlie Worsham came out with an album. His is actually called Compadres. It's a duet. All his songs are duets with people. And he has a duet with Luke Combs, and he has a duet with Lainey Wilson. God knows I love Lainey Wilson.
Yeah.
But Craig Morgan's getting ready to come out with an album where he does, I think, a duet with Jelly Roll and a duet with Luke Combs. It's just, and Shenandoah just did a duet with Luke Combs. They redid 2 Dozen Roses, which you definitely don't need to do. Don't mess up 2 Dozen Roses. It is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And that's not anything against these artists. It's just Craig Morgan, Shenandoah, maybe not so much Charlie Worsham, but Riley Green. These folks, you're already established, and you already got a good thing with these songs. You don't need any help with them. The original's great.
Yep.
And then everybody seems like they've just got to do a duet with those 3 or 4 artists. I mean, good gracious.
Yeah, and I even talking about those artists, let's just say, and I ain't trying to get off of Riley Green here, but 2 things, downloading music and stuff, sometimes you need to listen to it before you download it, because 2 artists off the top of my head, Aaron Tippin and Sammy Kershaw, have both put out albums of their songs from back in the day that were awesome then, but they've redone it to how they sound today, and to be honest with you, I went through and deleted them.
Not necessary.
Yeah, and I went back and added the stuff that they recorded in 1996 because, for example, because I just don't know why you mess with stuff.
Because you know those guys that got some lost file stuff in the basement that they've never recorded. You want to do something different, record that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and I mean, it's almost like any time a record comes out, I'm almost scared to open it up to see the track listing, because I'm scared they're going to do a duet with Jelly Roll, Luke Combs, Lainey Wilson, and whoever else is going on that week. It's just, and again, it's not a bash to those artists. It's just like, guys, do something original.
Oh yeah.
Don't do it with the same 3 artists over and over and over.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and I ain't, like I said, I ain't get through and bash anyone. And those 3, I love Lainey Wilson.
Yes, sir.
But I'm just saying that that Different Round Here with just Riley Green doing it, that title track to the first main album, you know, if you listen to that album and miss that song, then that's on you. There's no way that all the stuff he mentions in there, that it's just good American conservative values. If you miss that, then that's on you. I wouldn't even have redone it.
Me neither.
I mean, and doing something with Luke Combs, you know, y'all 2 could have got together and rode on the bus and put something up, but that's what you wanted to do.
Right.
But anyway, the album on the whole was a 10 as Bill Bob said.
Good stuff on there.
Yeah, I loved it. So anyway, we don't know what we'll come up with next time. I love these album reviews though, especially ones we're excited about like this one. I couldn't wait to get this one.
Yeah, no, there should be some pretty exciting things coming, next 2 or 3 months coming out that we can do some more of these album reviews.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yep. But anyway, we enjoyed it. We'll see y'all next time. Take it easy.
Take care.